Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated. To the shareholders, Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated, Berkshire's gain in net worth during 2013 was $34.2 billion. That gain was after deducting $1.8 billion charges, meaningless economic, as I will explain later, that arose from the purchase of the minority interest in Marmon and Escar. After those charges, per share book value of both our Class A and Class B stock increased by 18.2% over the last 49 years. That is, present management took over, book value has grown from $19 to $134 $1,973, a rate of 19.7% compared annually. All per share figures used in this report apply to Berkshire A share figures. Of the B shares are 1 to 150th of those shown for A. On the facing page, we show our long-standing performance measurement, the daily change in Berkshire per share book value versus the market performance of the S&P 500. What counts, of course, is per share intrinsic value, but that's subjective figure in book value is useful for a reserve check indicator. An extended discussion of intrinsic value is included in our own related business, principled in pages 103 to 108. These principles have been included in our reports for 30 years, and we have urged you and the respective shareholders to read them. As I have told you, Berkshire's intrinsic value far exceeds its book value. Moreover, the difference has widened considerably in recent years. That's why our 2012 decision to authorize the purchase of shares at 120% of book value made sense. Purchases at the level of benefit continuing shareholders because per share intrinsic value exceeds that of percentage of book value by a meaningful amount. We did not purchase shares during 2013, however, because the stock price did not descend to the 120% level. If it does, we will be aggressive. Charlie Munger, Berkshire's vice chairman, my partner, and I believe both Berkshire's book value and intrinsic value will outperform the S&P in years when the market is down or moderately up. We expect to fall short, though in years as the market is strong, as we did in 2013. We have underperforming 10 of our 49 years, while one of our shortfalls occurring when the S&P gain exceeded 15% over the stock market cycle. Between year ends 2007 and 2013, we have overperformed the S&P through full cycles in the future years. We expect to do that again. If we fail to do so, we will not have earned our pay. After all, you could always own in the next fund and be sure of S&P results. They are at Berkshire. On the operating front, just about everything turned out well for us last year. In certain cases, very well. Let me count the ways. We completed 2 years of which are spending almost $18 billion to purchase all of NV Energy, a major interest in H.J. Heinz. Both companies fit us well and will be prospering a century from now with Heinz purchase. Moreover, we created a partnership template that may be used by Berkshire in future acquisition of size. Here we team up with investors at 3G Capital, a firm led by my friend Jorge Paulo Lemon. His talented associates Bernardo Heinz, new CEO, and Alex Burings as chairman are responsible for operations. Berkshire is a financing partner in that role. We purchased $8 billion of Heinz preferred stock that carries a 9% coupon, but also possesses other features that should increase the preferred annual return to 12% or so. Berkshire and 3G each repurchase half of the Heinz common stock for $4.25 billion. Though Heinz acquisition has some similarity to private equity transactions, there's a crucial difference. Berkshire never intends to sell a share of the company. What we would like to rather is to buy more, and that can happen. Certain 3G investors may sell some of all of their shares in the future, and we might increase our ownership at much times. Berkshire and 3G could also decide at some point that it would be mutually beneficial if we were to exchange some for common shares and equity valuation appropriate at the time. Our partnership took control of Heinz in June, and operating results so far are encouraging. Only minor earnings from Heinz report, however, are reflected in those who we report for Berkshire this year. One-time charges incurred. The purchase and subsequent restructure of operations total $1.3 billion. Earning in 2014 will be substantial. With Heinz, Berkshire now owns 8 to 1/2 companies that were they standalone business would be in Fortune 500. Only 1,491 and half to go. NV Energy purchased for $5.6 billion in Mid-American Energy. Our utility subsidiary supplies electricity to about 88% of Nevada's population. This acquisition fits nicely into our existing electric utility operation and offers many possibilities of large investments in renewable energy. NV Energies will not be Mid-American's last major acquisition. Mid-American is one of our Powerhouse 5, a collection of large non-insurance businesses, and in aggregate had a record of $10.8 billion of pre-tax earnings in 2013, up $758 million from 2012. The other companies in the same group are BNSF, Escarlo, Brazil, and Marmon. Of the 5, only Mid-American earnings $393 million per pre-tax was owned Berkshire 9 years ago. Subsequently, we purchased another 3 or 5 of an all-cash basis in acquiring the 5th, BNSF. We paid about 70% of the cost in cash, and for the remainder, issued shares that increased the number of outstanding by 6.1% over. In other words, the $10.4 billion gain in annual earnings delivered by Berkshire, the 5 companies over the 9-year span, has been accompanied by only minor dilution. That satisfies your goal not simply growing, but rather increasing per share results. If the U.S. economy continues to improve in 2014, we can expect earnings of our Powerhouse 5 to improve also perhaps by $1 billion or so pre-tax. Our many dozens of smaller insurance businesses So it's earned $4.7 billion pre-tax last year, up from $30.9 billion in 2012. Here too, we expect further gains in 2014. Berkshire's extensive insurance operation again operated an underwriting profit in 2013. That makes 11 years in a row and increased its float. During the 11-year stretch, our float, money that doesn't belong to us, but that we can invest for Berkshire's benefit, has grown from $41 billion to $77 billion concurrently. Our underwriting profit has aggregated $22 billion pre-tax, including $3 billion realized in 2013. And all of this all began with our 1967 purchase of National Indemnity for $8.6 million. We now own a wide variety of exceptional insurance operations. Best known is Geico, the car insurer Berkshire acquired. It followed year-end 1995, having for many years prior owned a partial interest. Geico in 1996 ranked number 7 among U.S. auto insurers. Now Geico is number 2, having recently passed Allstate. The reasons for this amazing growth are simple: low price and reliable service. You can do yourself a favor by calling 1-800-847-7536 or checking geico.com to see if you too can cut your insurance costs, buy some of Berkshire's other products while the savings. While Charlie and I search for offense, our many subsidiaries are regularly making bold acquisitions. Last year, we contracted for 25 of these, scheduled to cost 30.1% billion in aggregate. These transactions range from $1.9 million to $1.1 billion in size. Charlie and I encourage these deals to deploy capital and activities that fit with our existing business. But Corps, with expert managers, results no more work for us and more earnings for you. Many more of these bolt-on deals will be made in future years. In aggregate, they will be meaningful. Last year, we invested $3.5 billion in shares sort of Vault that purchased additional shares in 2 wonderful businesses we already controlled. In one case, Marman, our purchases bought us to the 100% ownership we had signed up for 2008. In another instance, Escar is the wartimer, a family elected to exercise the put option. It held selling us at 20% of the business and retained when we bought control in 2006. These purchases added about $300 million pre-tax. Our current earning power also delivered us $800 million of cash. Meanwhile, the same nonsensical accounting rule that I described in last year's letter required that we enter these purchases in our books at $1.8 billion less than we paid, a process that reduced Berkshire's book value. The charge was made to capital and excess of par value. Figure that out. This weird accounting, you should understand, instantly increased Berkshire's excess of intrinsic value over book value by about the same $1.8 billion. Our subsidiaries spent a record $11 billion in plant and equipment during 2013, roughly twice our depreciation charge. About 89% of the money was spent in the United States, though we invest abroad as well as the mother load of opportunities in America. In a year in which most equity managers found it possible to outperform the S&P 500, both Todd Combs and Ted Weschler handedly did so. Each now runs portfolio exceeding $7 billion. They've earned it. I must again confess that their investment outperformed in mine. Charlie says I should add by a lot. If such humiliating comparisons continue, I'll have no choice but to cease talking to them. Todd and Ted have also created significant value for you in several matters. Not only did their portfolio activities, their contributions are just beginning. Both men have Berkshire blood in their veins. Berkshire's year-end employment, counting Heinz, total record 330,745, up 42,283 from the last year. The increase, I must admit, included one person in our Omaha office. Don't panic, the headquarters gang still fits comfortably on one floor. Berkshire increased its ownership interest last year in each of its big 4 investments: American Express, Coca-Cola, IBM, and Wells Fargo. We purchased additional shares of Wells Fargo, increasing our ownership to 9.2% versus 8.7% a year in 2012, and IBM 6.3% versus 6.0%. Meanwhile, stock repurchases at Coca-Cola and American Express raised our percentage ownership. Our equity in Coca-Cola grew from 8.9% to 9.1%, and our interest in American Express from 13.7% to 14.2%. If you think tenths of the percent aren't important, ponder this math. For the 4 companies in aggregate, each increase 1,000% in our share of their equity raised Berkshire shares of their annual earnings by $40 million. The 4 companies possess excellent business and are run by managers who are both talented and shareholder-oriented. At Berkshire, we wish for owning a non-controlling but substantial portion of a wonderful company. To owning 100% of a so-so business, it's better to have partial interest in the Hope Diamond than to own a Vol Rhinestone. Going by our year-end holding, our portion of Big Four's 2013 earnings amounted to $4.4 billion in the earnings we report to you. However, we include only dividends we received, about $1.4 billion last year, but make no mistake, the $3 billion of the earnings we don't report is every bit as valuable to us as the portion of Berkshire Records. The earnings that these 4 companies return are often used for the purchase of their own stock in a move that enhances our share of future earnings, as well as funding business opportunities that usually turn out to be advantageous. All that lead us to expect that the per share earnings of these 4 investees will grow substantially over time. If they do, dividends of Berkshire will increase. And even more important, our unrealized capital gains will too. For the 4 unrealized gains already totaled $39 billion at year-end. Our flexibility in capital allocation and our willingness to invest large sums passively in controlled businesses give us significant advantage over companies that limit themselves to acquisitions they can operate. Woody Allen stated a general idea when he said, "The advantage of being bisexual is that doubles your chance for a date on Saturday night." Similarly, our appetite for either operating businesses or passive investment doubles our chances of finding sensible uses for our endless gusher of cash. Late in 2009, amidst the gloom of a recession, we agreed to buy BNSF, the largest purchase in Berkshire history. At the time, I called the transaction an all-in wager in the economic future in the United States. The kind of commitment was nothing new of us. We've been making similar wages ever since Buffett Partnership Limited acquired control of Berkshire in 1965 for good reasons too. Charlie and I have always considered a bet on ever-rising U.S. prosperity to be very close to sure thing. Indeed, who has ever benefited during the past 207 years by betting against America? If you compare a country's present condition that existed in 1776, you have to rub your eyes in wonder, and the dynamism embedded in our market economy will continue to work its magic. America's best days lie ahead. With this tailwind working for us, Charlie and I hope to build Berkshire's per share intrinsic value. 1. Constantly improving the basic earning power of our many subsidiaries. 2. Further increasing their earnings through bolt-on acquisitions. 3. Benefiting from the growth of our investees. 4. Purchasing Berkshire shares when they are available to meaningful discount from intrinsic value. And 5. Making occasional large acquisition. We will also try to maximize result for you, both by rarely, if ever, issuing Berkshire shares. Those building blocks rest on a solid rock foundation. Essentially, hence, BNSF and Mid-American Energy will still be playing major roles in our economy. Insurance will concomitantly be essential for both business and individuals, and no company brings greater human financial resources to that business than Berkshire. Moreover, we will always maintain supreme financial strength, operating with at least $20 billion of cash equivalents and never incurring material amounts of short-term obligations. As we view these and other strengths, Charlie and I, like your company's prospect, we feel fortunate to be entrusted with its management. Intrinsic business value. As much Charlie and I talk about intrinsic business value, we cannot tell you precisely what the number is for. Berkshire shares don't in fact for any other stock into our 2010 annual report. However, we let our 3 elements, and one of them qualitative, that we believe are the key to a sensible estimate of Berkshire intrinsic value. That discussion is reproduced in full of pages 100 and 110. Here's an update of the quantitative factors in 2013. Our per share investment increased 13.6% to $129,253%. Our dollars, our pre-tax earnings for business other than insurance and investment increased 12.8% to $9,116 per share. Since 1970, our per share investment have increased at a rate of 19.3% compounded annually, and our earnings figures have grown at a 20.6% clip. It is no coincidence that the price of Berkshire stock over the 43-year period has increased at a rate very similar to that of our 2 measures of value. Charlie and I like to see gains in both sectors, but we will most strongly focus building operating earnings. Now let's examine the 4 major sectors of operations. Each has vastly different balance sheet and income characteristics from others, so we'll present them as 4 separate businesses, which is how Charlie and I view them, and if they're important and enduring advantage to having them all under one roof. Our goal is to provide you with information we would wish to have if your positions were reversed, if you're being reporting manager with the absentee holders but don't get any ideas. Insurance. Our investment in the insurance companies will reflect a major step in our efforts to achieve a more diversified base of earning power. 1967 annual report. Let's look first at insurance, Berkshire Corporation, and the engine that has consistently propelled our expansion since that 1967 report was published. Property Casualty, PC. Insurers receive premium upfront and pay claims later, and those extreme cases such as those arising from certain workers' compensation and accidents. Payments can stretch over decades to collect. Now pay later model leaves PC companies holding large sums of money we call float that will eventually go to others. Meanwhile, insurers get benefit to develop policies and claims and go. This amount of float an insurance holds usually remains fairly stable in relation to premium volume. Consequently, as our business grows, so does our float, and how we have grown, as the following table shows. Year and float in millions. 1970, 39, 1980, 237, 1990, 1,632, 2000, 27,871, 2010, 65,832, 2013, 77,240. Further decrease in float will be tough to achieve. On the plus side, GEICO's float will almost certainly grow. In National Indemnity's reinsurance division, however, we have a number of run-off contracts whose float drifts downward. If we do experience a decline in float at some future time, it will be very gradual. At the outside, no more than 3% in a year. The nature of our insurance contract is such that we can never be subject to immediate demands for sums that are large compared to our cash resources. In this respect, property casualty insurance differs in an important way from certain forms of life insurance. If our premiums exceed the total of expenses and eventually losses, we register underwriting profit that adds to the investment income our float produces. When such profit is earned, we enjoy the use of free money and, better yet, get paid for holding it. Unfortunately, the wish of all insurers to achieve this happy result creates intense competition so vigorous in most years that it causes the PC industry as a whole to operate at a significant underwriting loss. This loss, in effect, is what the industry pays to hold its float. For example, State Farm, by far the country's largest and a well-managed company, besides incurred an underlying loss in 9 of the 12 years ending in 2012, the latest year for which their financials are available. As I write this, competitive dynamics almost guarantee that the insurance doesn't trade despite the float income all companies enjoy will continue its dismal record of earning subnormal returns as compared to other businesses. As noted in the first section of this report, we have now operated at an underwriting profit for 11 consecutive years over pre-tax gain for the period, having totaled $22 billion. Looking ahead, I believe we will continue to underwrite profitably in most years. Doing so is the focus of all insurance managers who know that while float is valuable, it can be down by poor underwriting results. So how does our float affect intrinsic value? When Berkshire book value is calculated, the full amount of our float is deducted. A liability is if we had to pay it out tomorrow when we could not replenish it. But then the float is strictly liability is incorrect. It should instead be viewed as a revolving fund. Daily we pay old claims, some $17 billion to more than 5 million claimants. In 2013, reduces float just surely we each day, write new business and thereby generate new claims that add float. If our revolving float is both costless and long enduring, which I believe it will, be the true value of the liability is dramatically less than accounting liability. Account for this overrated liability is $15.5 billion of goodwill that is attributable to earned insurance companies and included in book values and asset. In a very large part, this goodwill represents a price we paid for the float generating capabilities of our insurance operations. The cost of the goodwill, however, has no bearing on its true value. For example, if an insurance business sustains large and prolonged underwriting losses, any goodwill asked to carry in the book should be seen valueless, whatever its original cost. Fortunately, this does not describe Berkshire. Charlie and I believe the true economic value of our insurance goodwill. What we'd happily pay to purchase an insurance operation possessing float of similar quality that we have to far in excess its historic carrying value. The value of our float is one reason, a huge reason why we believe Berkshire's intrinsic business value substantially exceeds its book value. Berkshire's attractive insurance economics exist only because we have some terrific managers running disciplined operations that possess strong, hard-to-replicate business models. Let me tell you about the major units. First, by float size is the Berkshire Hathaway Insurance Group, managed by Ajit Jain. Ajit insures risks that no one else has the desire or capital to take on. His operation combines capacity, speed, decisiveness, and most important, brings in a manner unique in the insurance business. Yet he never exposes Berkshire to risks that are inappropriate in relation to our resources. Indeed, we are far more conservative in avoiding risks than most large insurers. For example, if the insurance industry should experience a $150 billion loss from some mega catastrophe, a loss about triple anything it has ever experienced, Berkshire as a whole would likely record a significant profit for the year because of its many streams of earnings, and we would remain awash in cash, looking for large opportunities if the catastrophe caused markets to go into shock. All other major insurers and reinsurers would, meanwhile, far in the red, with some facing insolvency. From a standing start in 1985, Ajit had created an insurance business with a float of $37 billion and large cumulative underwriting profit. If yet no other insurance CEO has come to matching. Ajit's mind is always in the factor. Is always looking for more lines of the business he can add to his current assortment. One venture materialized last June when he formed Berkshire Hathaway Specialty Insurance, BHSI. This initiative took us into commercial insurance, where we instantly accepted by both major insurance brokers and corporate risk managers. Throughout America, these professionals recognize that no other insurers can match the financial strength of Berkshire, which guarantees that legitimate claims arising many years in the future will be paid promptly and fully. BSHI is led by Peter Eastwood, an experienced underwriter who is widely respected in the insurance world. Peter has assembled a spectacular team that is already writing a substantial amount of business with many Fortune 500 companies and with smaller operations, as well as BHSI will be a major asset for Berkshire, one that will generate volume in the billions. Within a few years, give Peter a Berkshire greeting when you see him at the annual meeting. We have another insurance powerhouse in General Ray, managed by Tad Montross. At bottom, a sound insurance operation needs to adhere to 4 disciplines. It must, 1, understand all exposure that might cause a policy to incur losses. 2, conservatively assess the likelihood of any exposure actually causing a loss and the probable cost of it does. 3, set a premium that on average will deliver a profit after both prospective loss and cost operating expenses are covered. And 4, be willing to walk away with the appropriate premium can be obtained. Many insurers pass the first 3 tests and flunk the 4th. They simply can't turn their back on business that is being eagerly written by their competitors. That old line, the other guy is doing it so well, Mrs. Well spell trouble in any business, but in none more so than insurance. That has observed all 4 of the insurance commandments, and it shows in its results. General Ray's huge float has been better than cost-free under his leadership, and we expect that on average to continue. We are particularly enthusiastic about General Ray's international life reinsurance business, which has grown consistently and profitably since we acquired the company in 1998. It can be remembered that soon after we purchased General Ray, the company was beset by problems that caused commentators and me as well briefly to believe I had made a huge mistake. That day is long gone. General Ray is now a gem. Finally, there's Geico, the insurer in which I cut my teeth 3 years ago. Geico is managed by Tony Leslie, who joined the company at 18 and completed 50 years of service in 2013. Tony became CEO in 1993, and since then the company has been flying. When I was first introduced to Geico in January 1, 1951, I was blown away by the huge cost advantage the company enjoyed compared to the expense borne by the giants of the industry. That operational efficiency continues today is an all-important asset. No one likes to buy auto insurance, but almost everyone likes to drive. The insurance needed is a major expenditure for most families. Saving matter to them, and only a lowest cost operation can deliver these. Geico's cost advantage is a factor that has enabled the company to gobble market share year after year. As low costs create a moat and enduring one that competitors are unable to cross. Meanwhile, our little Geico can tell Americans how Geico can save the important money with our latest reduction in operating costs. His stories became even more compelling. In 1995, we purchased the half of Geico that we didn't already own, paying $1.4 billion more than the tangible assets. We acquired that goodwill and will forever remain unchanged in our books. As Geico's business grows, however, so does its true economic goodwill. I believe that figure will be approaching $20 billion. In addition to our three major insurance operations, we own a group of smaller companies, most of them plying their trade in odd corners of the insurance world. In aggregate, these companies are a growing corporation that consistently delivers an underwriting profit. Moreover, as the table below shows, they also provide us with substantial float. Charlie and I treasure these companies and their managers. Insurance operations: Bayshore Insurance, General Ray, Geico, other primary underwriting profit, year-end float in millions. 2013, $1,294, 283, $1,127, $385, $3,089 total. 2012, $304, $355, $680, $286, $1,625 total. 2013, $37,231, 2013, $12,566, $7,430, $77,240, 2012, $34,821, $20,128, $11,578, $6,598, $73,125. Simply put, insurance is a sale promise. The customer pays money now. The insurer promises to pay money in the future if certain events occur. Sometimes the promise will not be tested for decades. Take up life insurance bought by those in their 20s. Therefore, both the ability and willingness of the insurers to pay even if economic chaos prevails. When payment time arrives is all important. Berkshire's promise have no equal effect, affirmed in recent years by actions of the world's largest and most sophisticated insurers, some which have wanted to shed some self-huge, exceptionally long-lived liabilities, particularly those involving asbestos claim. That is, these insurers wish to cede their liabilities to their insurer. Choosing the wrong insurer, however, the one that down would prove to be financially strapped, or a bad factor would put the original insurer in danger and getting liabilities right back in its lap. Almost without exception, the largest insurer seeking aid came to Berkshire. Indeed, in the largest such transaction ever recorded, Lloyd's in 2007 over the us both many thousand known claims arising from policies written before 1993, and are known by a huge number of claims for that same period sure to materialize in the future. Yes, we'll be receiving claims decades from now that apply events taking place prior to 1993. Berkshire's ultimate pay arising from Lloyd's transaction are totally unknowable. What is certain, however, is that Berkshire will pay all valid claims up to $15 billion limit of our policy. No other insurance promise would have given Lloyd's the comfort provided by its agreement with Berkshire. The CEO of the entity is handling Lloyd's claims that said its best. Named the original insurers that Lloyd's wanted to sleep easy at night, and we think we've just bought them. The world's best mattresses. Berkshire has great managers, premier financial strength, and a variety of business models, possessing wide moats from something unique in the insurance world. The combination of the huge asset for Berkshire shareholders that will only get more valuable with time. Regulated capital-intensive businesses. Though there are many regulatory restraints in the utility industry, it's possible that we will make additional commitments in the field. If we do, the amounts involved could be large. 1999 annual report. We have two major operations, BNSF and Mid-American Energy, that share important characteristics, distinguishing them from our other businesses. Consequently, we assigned them their own section in this letter and split other combined financial statistics and GWP balance sheet and income statement. A key characteristic of both companies is their huge investment in very long-lived regulated assets, which is primarily funded by large amounts of long-term debt that is not guaranteed by Berkshire. Our credit is in fact not needed because each company has earning power that even under terrible economic conditions will far exceed its interest requirements. Last year, for example, BNSF's interest coverage was 9:1. Our definition of coverage is pre-tax earnings interest, not EBITDA interest, a commonly used measure we view as seriously flawed. At Mid-American, meanwhile, two factors ensure the company's ability to service its debt under all circumstances. The risks come to allow utilities recession-resistant earnings, which result from these companies exclusively offering an essential service. The second is enjoyed by a few other utilities, a great diversity of earning streams, which shield us from being seriously harmed by any single regulatory board. Now, with the acquisition of NV Energy, Mid-American's earnings base had further broadened. This particular strength, supplemented by Berkshire's ownership, has enabled Mid-American and its utility subsidiaries to significantly lower their cost of debt. This advantage benefits both us and our customers. Every time our subsidiaries power the American economy in major ways. BNSF carries about 15%, measured by ton miles, of all intercity freight, whether it is transported by truck, rail, rail, water, air, or pipeline. Indeed, we move more ton miles a good than anyone else, a fact establishing BNSF as the most important artery in our economy's circulatory system. It's holding the number one position strength in 2013. BNSF, like all railroads, also move its cargo in an extraordinarily fuel efficient, environmentally friendly way, carrying a ton of freight about 500 miles on a single gallon of diesel fuel. Trucks taking on the same job guzzle about 4 times as much fuel. Mid-American's utilities serve regulated retail customers in 11 states. The utility company stretches further. Industry leader in renewables from a standing start 9 years ago. Mid-American now accounts for 7% of the country's wind generation capacity, with more than the way. Our share in solar, most of which is still in construction, is even larger. Mid-American can make these investments because it retains all of its earnings. Here's the little known fact. Last year, Mid-American retained by dollars of earnings by far than any other American electric utility. We are regularly see this as an important advantage, one almost certain to exist 5, 10, 20 years from now. When our current projects are completed, Mid-American's renewable portfolios will have cost $15 billion. We are just making such commitments as long as they promise reasonable returns, and on that front, we put a large amount of trust in the future regulations. Our confidence is justified both by our past experience and by knowledge that society will forever need massive investments in both transportation and energy. It is in its self-interest or governments to treat capital providers in manners that will ensure the continued flow of the funds to essential projects. It is meanwhile in our self-interest to conduct our operations in a way that earns the approval of our regulators and the people they represent. Tangible proof of our dedication to that duty was delivered last year in the poll of customer satisfaction covering 552 holding companies and their 101 operating electric utilities. Our Mid-American group ranked number 1 with 95.3% of respondents giving us a very satisfied vote, and a single customer rating as dissatisfied. The bottom score in the survey incidentally was a dismal 34.5%. All three of our companies were ranked far lower by this measure before they were acquired by Mid-American. The extraordinary customer satisfaction we have achieved is of great importance as we expand regularly in states we hope to enter. Are glad to see us know we will be responsible operators. Our railroad has been diligent as well as anticipating the needs of its customers. Whatever you may have heard about our country's crumbling infrastructure in no way applies to BNSF or railroads generally. America's rail system has never been better, shaped in consequence of huge investment by the industry. We're not, however, resting. BNSF spent $4 billion in the railroad in 2013, double its depreciation charge in a single year record for any railroad, and we will spend considerably more than 2014. Like Noah, who foresaw early on the need for dependable transportation, we know it's our job to plan ahead. Leading our two capital-intensive companies, the Greg Abel and Mid-American, and the team of Matros and Carl Ice at BNSF, the sheer extraordinary mergers who have my gratitude in the served years as well. Mid-American 89.8% owned, earning in millions, 2013, 2012, 2011. UK Utilities, Iowa Utility, Western Utilities, Pipelines, Home Service, other. Net operating earnings before corporate interest and taxes, income taxes, net earnings applicable to Berkshire. $362, $429, $469, $230, $982, $385, $139, $4, $2,102, $2,296, $170, $1,636, $1,470, $429, 236, 737, 383, 82, 91, 1958, 314, 172, 1472, 1323, 4769, 279, 771, 388, 39, 36, 1982, 336, 315, $1,331. Earnings applicable to Berkshire, $1,470, $1,223, $1,204. BNSF, earnings in millions, revenues, 2013, 2012, 2011, revenues, $22,014, $20,805, $19,548. Operating expenses, $15,357, $14,835, $14,247. Operating earnings before interest and taxes, $6,657, $6,531, $5,301. Interest net, $729, $623, $560. Income taxes, $2,135, $2,005, $1,769. Net earnings, $3,793, $3,732, $2,972. Ron Peltier continued to build Home Services, Mid-American's real estate brokerage subsidiary. Last year's operation made 4 acquisitions, the most significant being Fox & Roche, a Philadelphia-based company that is the largest single-market realtor in the country. Home Service now has 22,114 agents listed by geography in page 112, up 38% from 2012. Home Services also owns 67% of residential real living franchise operations, which are in the process of rebranding their franchises. These are Berkshire Hathaway Home Service. If you haven't yet many, you will soon be seeing our name or for sale sign. lines: manufacturing, service, and retailing operations. See, that store Warren says, pointing at the Nebraska Furniture Mart. That's a really good business. Why don't you buy it? I said. It's privately held, Warren said. Oh, I said. It might buy it anyway. Warren said someday. Super Money by Adam Smith, 1972. Our activities in the part of Berkshire covered the waterfront. Let's look through the summary balance sheet and earnings statements of our entire group. Assets, cash and equivalents, accounts and notes receivable, inventory, other current assets, total current assets, goodwill and other intangible fixed assets, other assets. $6,225, $7,749, $9,945, $716, $25,035, $25,617, $19,389, $4,274, $74,315. Liabilities and equity, notes payable, other current liabilities, total current liabilities, deferred taxes, term and debt, other liabilities, non-controlling interest, Berkshire equity. $1,615, $8,965, $10,780, $5,184, $4,405, $456, $3,600, $6,900, $74,315. Earnings statement in millions. Revenues, operating expense, interest expense, pre-tax earnings, income tax and non-controlling interest, net earnings. 2013, $95,291, $88,414, $135, $6,742, $2,512, $44,230, 2012, $83,255, $76,978, $146, $631, $2,432, $3,699, 2011, $72,406, $67,239, $130, $5,037, $1,998, $3,039. Our income expense data conforming to generally accepted accounting principles, GWP is on page 29. In contrast, the operating expense figures above are non-GWP and exclude some purchase accounting items, primarily the amortization of certain intangible assets. We present the data in this manner because Charlie and I believe that just the numbers more accurately reflect the true economic expense and profits of the business aggregated in the table than the GWP figures. I won't explain all the adjustments. Some are tiny and arcane, but serious investors should understand that they dispute natural intangible assets. Some truly deplete over time, while others in a way lose with software. For example, amortization charges are very real expenses. Charges against other intangibles such as amortization of customer relationships, however, are true purchase accounting rules and are clearly not real costs. GWP accounting draws no distinction between the two types of charges. Both, that is, recorded as expenses when earnings are calculated, even though from an inventor's point of view, they could not be different. In the GWP compliant figures we show on page 29, amortization charges of $648 million for the companies included in section are deducted as expense. We will call about 20% of these real. The rest not. This difference has become significant because of the many acquisitions we have made. It will almost certainly rise further as we acquire more companies. And eventually, of course, the no charges disappear when the assets to which they related become fully amortized. But this usually takes 15 years, and alas, it will be with successors whose reported earnings get the benefits of their expiration. Every time of depreciation is expense we report, however, is a real cost. And that's true almost all other companies as well, when all traders tote EBITDA as a valuation guide bottom of your wallet. Our public reports of earnings will, of course, continue to conform to GWP embrace reality. However, remember to add back of the most important changes charges we report. The crowd of companies in the section self-product, ranging from lollipop to jet airplanes. Some of these businesses measured by earnings on unleveraged net tangible assets enjoy terrific economics, producing profits that run from 25% after tax to far more than 100%. Others generated returns in the area of 12% to 20%. A few, however, have very poor returns as a result of some serious mistakes. I made in my job of capital allocation. I was not misled. I simply was wrong in my evaluation of the economic dynamics of a company or the industry in which it operated. Fortunately, my blunders usually involve relatively small acquisitions or large buys have generally worked out well. In a few cases, more than well, I have not. However, made my last mistake in purchasing neither US or stocks. Not everything worked out planned. Viewed as a single entity, the companies in this group are the excellent business they employed are very large, $25 billion of net tangible assets during 2013, and a large quantity of excess cash and little leverage, earned 16.7% after tax on that capital. Of course, a business with terrific economics can be a bad investment. If the purchase price is excessive, we have paid substantial premiums to net tangible assets for most of our business, a cost that is reflected in the large figure we show for goodwill. Overall, however, we are getting decent return on the capital we have deployed in this sector. Furthermore, the intrinsic value of these businesses in the aggregate exceeds their carrying value by a good margin. Even so, the difference between intrinsic value and carrying value in the insurance regulated industry segment is far greater. It is there that the truly big winners reside. We have far too many companies in the group to comment on them individually. Moreover, both current and potential competitors read the support in the field of our business. We might be disadvantaged. So if they knew our numbers, so in some of our operations that are not of size material to an evaluation of Berkshire, we will disclose what is required. You can find a good bit of details about many of our operations, however, non-pages 80 to 84. I can resist, however, giving an update on Nebraska Furniture Mart's expansion into Texas. I'm not covering this event because of the economic importance to Berkshire. It takes more than a new store to move the needle on Berkshire's $225 billion equity base, but I've now work, 30 years with the Marketplace Blumpkin family, and I'm excited about the Marketplace store. Truly Texas-sized, it's building at the Colony in northern part of the Dallas metropolitan area. When the store is completed next year, NFM will have under one roof in a 433-acre site, 1.8 million square feet of retail, and supporting warehouse space. View the project's progress at www.nfm.com/Texas. NFM already owns the two highest volume home furnishing stores in the country in Omaha and Kansas City, each doing about $450 million annually. I predict the Texas store will blow these records away. If you live anywhere in your Dallas, come check this out. I think back to August 30, 1983, my birthday, when I went to see Miss Rose Blumpkin carrying a 1-to-1/4 page proposal for NFM that had drafted to produce on pages 114 to 115. Miss B accepted my offer without changing a word, and we completed the deal without involvement of investment bankers or lawyers, and experience that can only be described as heavenly. Though the company's financial statements were unaudited, I had no worries. Miss B simply told me what her word was good enough for me. Miss B was 89 at that time and worked until 103. Definitely my kind of woman. Take a look at NFM's financial statements from 1946 pages 116 to 117. Everything NFM now owns comes from A, that $72,264 of net worth and $50 no zeros omitted of cash the company then possessed. B, the incredible talents of Miss B, her son Louis, and his sons Ron and Irv. The punchline to this story is that Miss B never spent a day in school. Moreover, she immigrated from Russia to America, knowing not a word of English, but she loved her adopted country. At Miss B's request, the family always sang God Bless America at its gatherings. Aspiring business managers should look hard to explain, but rare attributes will produce Miss B's incredible success. Students from 40 universities visit me every year, and I have them start the day with a visit to NFM. If they absorb Miss B's lesson, they need none from me. Finance and financial products. Clayton's loans portfolio will likely grow to at least $5 billion in 2 million years, and with sensible credit standards in place, should deliver significant earnings. 2003 annual report. This sector and smallest includes 2 rental companies, extra trailers, and court furnitures, as well as Clayton Homes, that are country's leading producer and financer. Manufactured homes, aside from these 100% owned subsidiaries, will also include this category. Collection of financial assets. Our 50% interest in Bricadia Commercial Mortgage. Clayton is placed in its section because it owns services. 26,569 mortgages, totaling $13.6 billion in recent years as manufactured home sales plummeted. A higher percentage of Clayton's earnings came from this mortgage business. In 2013, however, the sale of new homes began to pick up, and earnings from both manufacturing and retail are again becoming significant. Clayton remains America's #1 home builder. Its 2013 output of 229,547 homes accounted for about 4.7% of all single-family residences. While in the country, Kevin Clayton, Clayton CEO, has done a magnificent job of guiding the company through the severe housing depression. Now his job definitely more fun these days. It includes the prospect of another earnings and gain in 2014. Cord and Extra are leaders in their industry as well. And Jeff Pedersen and Blood Friends will clear on top year presents their plans for purchase of the equipment that enlarge their rental potential. Here's the pre-tax earnings recap for the sector. Bricadia, Clayton, Cord Extra net financial income excludes capital gains or losses. 2013, $80, $416, $40, $125, $324, $985, 2012 in millions, $35, $255, $42, $106, $410, $848, 2011, $25, $154, $29, $136, $440, $774. Investments. Our stock performance is worth approximately $17 million, less than its carrying value cost. It is surveyed that over a period of years, the overall portfolio will be proved to be worth more than its cost. 1974 annual report below will list our 15 common stock investment that at the year end had the largest market value. 151,610,700, 400 million, 22,238,900, 41,129,643, 13,062,594, 68,121,984, 24,669,778, 20,060,390, 20,668,818, 52,477,678, 22,169,930, 301,246,076, 96,117,069, 56,805,984, 482,470,853. Company: American Express Company, the Coca-Cola Company, DirecTV, ExxonMobil Corp., the Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated, International Business Machines Corporation, Moody's Corporation, Munich Re, Phillips 66, the Procter & Gamble Company, Sanofi, Tesco PLC, U.S. Bancorp, Walmart Stores Incorporated, Wells Fargo & Company, others. Total common stocks carried in market. Percentage of company owned: 14.2, 9.1, 4.2, 0.9, 2.8, 6.3, 11.5, 11.2, 3.4, 11.1, 1.7, 3.7, 5.3, 1.8, 9.2. 12 for 31, 13. 4113. Cost in millions: 1,287, 1,299, 1,017, 3,737, 750, 11,681, 248, 2,990, 660, 386, 1,747, 1,699, 3,002, 2,976, 11,871, 11,281, 56,581. Market $13,756, 16,524, 1,536, 40,162, 2,315, 12,778, 1,936, 4,414, 15, 1,594, 40,272, 2,354, 1,666, 3,883, 4,447, 21,950, 19,884, 117,505. Their actual purchase price and also a tax basis, GWP cost, differs in a few cases because write-ups or write-downs that have been required under its rules exclude shares held by Berkshire subsidiary pension funds. Berkshire has one major equity position that is not included in the table. We can buy 700 million shares of Bank of America at any time prior to September 2021 for $5 billion. At year-end, these shares were worth $10.9 billion. We are likely to purchase the shares just before expiration of our option. In the meantime, it is important for you to realize that Bank of America is in effect our fifth largest equity investment and one value highly. In addition to our equity holdings, we also invest substantial sums in bonds. Usually we've done well in these, but not always. Most of you have never heard of Energy Future Holdings. Consider yourselves lucky. I certainly wish I hadn't. The company was formed in 2007 to effect a giant leveraged buyout of electric utility assets in Texas. The equity owners put $8 billion and borrowed a massive amount. In addition, about $2 billion for the debt was purchased by Berkshire pursuant to a decision I made without consulting with Charlie. That was a big mistake. Unless natural gas prices soar, EFH will almost certainly file for bankruptcy in 2014. Last year, we sold our holdings for $259 million while owning bonds. We received $837 million in cash interest. Overall, therefore, we suffered a pre-tax loss of $873 million. Next time, I'll call Charlie. A few of our subsidiaries, primarily electric and gas utilities, use derivatives in their operations. Otherwise, we have not entered into any derivative contracts for some years, and our expedition continues to run off. The contracts that have expired have delivered large profits as well as several $billion of medium-term float. Though there are no dragons, we expect a similar result from those remaining on our books. Some thoughts about investing. Investing is most intelligent when it's most business-like. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham is fitting to have a Ben Graham quote open in this discussion because I owe so much of what I know about investing to him. I will talk more about Ben a bit later, and I will even sooner talk about common stocks. But let me first tell you about two small non-stock investments that I made long ago. Don't either change my net worth by much, they're instructive. This all begins in Nebraska from 1973 to 1981. The Midwest experienced an explosion in farm prices caused by widespread belief that runaway inflation was coming and fueled by the lending policy of small rural banks. Then the bubble burst, bringing price declines of 50% or more than devastating both leveraged farmers and larger lenders. 5 times as many Iowa and Nebraska banks failed in debt bubbles after met in a recent recession. In 1886, I purchased a 400-acre farm located 50 miles north of Omaha from FDIC. It cost me $280,000 considerably, less than what a failed bank had lent against the farm for years earlier. I knew nothing about operating a farm, but I have a son who loves farming, and I learned from him about how many bushels of corn and soybeans the farm would produce and what the operating expenses would be. From these estimated, I calculated the normalized return from the farm to then be about 10%. I also thought it was likely that productivity would improve over time and that crops prices would move higher as well. Both expectations proved out. I need to know unusual knowledge or intelligence to conclude that the investment had no downside and potentially had no substantial upside. There would, of course, be the occasional bad crop prices would sometimes disappoint, but so what? There would be some unusually good years as well, and I would never be under any pressure to sell. Property now, 28 years later, the farm has tripled its earnings, and it's worth 5 times or more what I paid. I still know nothing about farming. Recently made just my second visit to the farm. In 1993, I made another small investment. Larry Silverstein, Salomon's landlord, when I was company CEO, told me about New York retail property adjacent to NYU that the Resolution Trust Corp was selling against the bubble had popped this one involving commercial real estate, and the RTC had been created to dispose of the assets of failed savings. Institutions are optimistic. Lending practices had fueled Tolly. Here too, the analysis was simple, as has been the case with the farm. The unleveraged current yield from the property was about 10%, but the property had been undermanaged by RTC, and its income would increase when several vacant stores were leased. Even more important, the largest tenant, who occupied around 20% of the project space, was paying rent of about 5% per foot, whereas the other tenants averaged $70. The expiration of this bargain lease in 9 years was certain to provide a major boost earnings. The property location was also superb. NYU was going anywhere. I joined a small group, including Larry and my friend Fred Rose, house that purchased the parcel. Fred was an experienced high-grade real estate investor who, with his family, would manage the property and manage it they did. As old leases expired, earnings tripled. Annual distribution now exceeds 35% of our original equity investment. Moreover, our original mortgage were financed in 1996 and again in 1999, moves that allowed several special distributions totaling more than 100% of what we had invested. I've yet to view the property income from both the farm and NYU real estate will probably decrease in the decades to come, though the gains won't be dramatic. The two investments will be solid and satisfactory holdings for my lifetime, and significantly for my children and grandchildren. I tell these tales to illustrate certain fundamentals of investing. You don't need to be an expert in order to achieve satisfactory investment returns, but if you aren't, you must recognize the limitations, follow a course certain to work reasonably well, keep things simple, and don't swing for defenses. When promises quick profits, respond with a quick no. Focus on the future productivity of the assets you are considering. If you don't feel comfortable making a rough estimate of the asset's future earnings, just forget it and move on. No one has the ability to evaluate every investment possibility, but omniscience isn't necessarily. You only need to understand the actions you undertake. If you instead focus on the prospective price charge of contemplated purchase, you're speculating. There is nothing proper about that. I know, however, that I am unable to speculate successfully, and I'm skeptical of those who claim sustained success doing so. Half of all these clone firms to win their first toss. None of those winners have an expectation of profit if he continues to play the game, and the fact that a given has appreciated in the recent part is never reason to buy it. With my too small investment, I thought only what the properties would produce and cared not at all about their daily valuations. Games are won by players who focus on the playing field, not by those whose eyes are glued to the scoreboard. If you can enjoy Saturdays and Sundays without looking at stock prices, give it a try on weekdays. Forming a micro opinions or listening to macro or market predictions of others is a waste of time. Indeed, it is dangerous because it may blur your vision of the facts that are truly important. When hearing TV commentators gladly opine on what the market will do next, I am reminded of Mickey's Mantle scathing comments. You don't know how easy the game is until you get into that broadcasting booth. My two purchases were made in 1986 and 1993. What the economy, interest rates, or the stock market might do in the years immediately following 1987 and 1994 was of no importance to me in making those investments. I can remember what the headlines for pundits were saying at that time. Whatever shattered corn would keep growing. Nebraska and students would flock NYU. There's one major difference between my too small investment and investment in stocks. Stocks provide you minute-to-minute valuations for your holdings, whereas I have yet to see a quotation for either my farm or the New York real estate. It should be an enormous advantage for investors in stocks to have those wildly fluctuating valuations placed on their holdings. And for some investors, it is, after all, if a Moody fellow with a farm bordering on my property yelled out a price every day to me at which he would either buy my farm or sell me his, and those prices varied widely over a short period over time depending on his mental state. How in the world could I be other than benefited by his erratic behavior? If his daily shout-out was ridiculously slow and I had some spare cash, I would buy his farm. If the number he yelled was absurdly high, I could either sell to him or just go on farming. Owners of stock, however, too often like the capricious and often irrational behavior of their fellow owners cause them to behave rationally as well. It's because there's so much chatter about markets, the economy, interest rates, price, behavior of stocks, etc. Some investors believe it is important to listen to pundits, and worse yet, important to consider acting upon their comments. Those people who can sit quietly for decades when they own a firm or apartment house to often become fanatic when they're exposed to the stream of stock quotations accompanying commentators delivering an implied message of don't just sit there, do something. For these investors, liquidity transformed from the unqualified benefit it should be to a curse. A flash crash or some other extreme market fluctuation can hurt an investor any more than an erratic mouthy neighbor can hurt by my farm investment. Indeed, tumbling markets can be helpful to the true investor if he cash available when he prices get far out of line values. A claim fear is your friend, and when investing, a forward pull is your enemy. During the extraordinary financial panic that occurred late in 2008, I never gave a thought to selling my farm or New York real estate, even though a severe recession was clearly brewing, and if I had owned 100% of a solid business with a good long-term prospect, it would have been foolish for me to even consider dumping it. So why would I have sold my stocks that were small participations in wonderful businesses? True, any one of them might eventually disappoint, but as a group, they were certain to do well. Could anyone really believe the earth was going to swallow up those incredible productive assets and limited human ingenuity exists in America? When Charlie and I buy stocks, which we think of as a small portion of our business, our analysis is very similar to that which we use in buying entire business. We first have to decide whether we can sensibly estimate an earning ratio for 5 years. Out or more, if the answer is yes, we'll buy the stock or business if it sells at a reasonable price in relation to the bottom boundary of our estimate. If we are he will lack the ability to estimate future earnings, which is usually the case, we simply move on top to the prospect. And in 54 years we have worked together, we have never forgone an attractive purchase because of the macro or political environment of the views of other people. In fact, these subjects never come up when we making decisions. It's vital, however, that we recognize the perimeter of our circle of competence and stay well inside of it. Even when we will make some mistakes, both with stocks and business, but they will not be the hazards that occur, for example, when you're long rising market induces purchases that are based on anticipated price behavior, and it's hard to be where the action is. Most investors, of course, have not made the study of business prospect a priority. In their lives, if wise, they will conclude that they do not know enough about specific businesses to predict their future earnings power. I have good news for these non-professionals. The typical investor doesn't need the skill. In aggregate, American business has won wonderfully over time and will continue to do so, though most assuredly in unpredictable fits and starts. In the 20th century, the Dow Jones Industrial Index advanced from 66 to 11,497, paying a rising stream of dividends to boot. The 21st century will witness further gains, almost certain to be substantial. The goal of the non-professional will not be to help to pick winners, neither he nor his. If helpers can do that, but should rather be its own cross-section of business that in aggregate are bound to do well. A low-cost S&P 500 index fund will achieve this goal. That's what of investing of the non-professional. The when is also important. The main danger is the timid of beginning investors will enter the market at a time of extreme exuberance, and then become the illustration when paper losses occur. Remember the late Barton Biggs observation: a bull market is like sex; it feels just before it ends. The antidote to that kind of mistiming is for investors to accumulate shares for over a long period and never to sell when the news is bad and stocks are well off. Their highs following those rules. The know-nothing investor who both diversifies and keeps his cost minimal is virtually certain to get satisfactory results. Indeed, there's this unsophisticated investor who's realistic about his shortcomings, likely to obtain long-term results, than the knowledgeable professional who is blind to even single weaknesses. If investors frenetically bought and sold farmland to each other, neither yields nor prices of their crops would be increased. The only consequence of such behavior would be decrease in overall earnings realized by the farm-owning population because of the substantial cost it would incur as it sought advice to switch properties. Nevertheless, both individuals and institutions will constantly be urged to be active by those who profit from giving advice or effecting transactions. The resulting friction costs can be huge, and for investors in aggregate devoid of benefit, so those ignore chatter, keep your costs minimal, invest in stocks as you would in a farm. My money is, I should add, is where my mouth is. What I advise here is essentially identical to certain instructions I've laid out in my will. One bequest provides that cash will be delivered to a trustee for my wife's benefit. I have to use cash for individual bequests because all of my Berkshire shares will be fully distributed to certain philanthropic organization over the 10 years following the closing of my estate. My advice to the trustee could not be more simple. Put 10% of the cash in short-term government bonds and 90% in a very low-cost S&P 500 index fund. I suggest Vanguards. I believe the trust long-term results from this policy will be superior to those attained by most investors, whether pension funds, institutions, or individuals who employ high-fee managers. And now, back to Ben Graham. I learned most of the thoughts in this investment discussion from Ben's book, The Intelligent Investor, which I bought in 1949. My financial life changed with that purchase. Before reading Ben's book, I had wandered around the investing landscape, devouring everything written on subject. Much of what I read fascinated me. I tried my hands charting and I did using market indicia to predict stock movements. I sat in brokerage offices watching the tape roll by and listened to commentators. All of this was fun, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't getting anywhere. In contrast, Ben's idea was re-explained logically in elegant Indian prose without Greek letters and complicated formulas. For me, the key points were laid out in what later editions, Filippo chapters 8 and 20, the original 1949 edition numbers the chapters differently. These points guide my investing decisions today. A couple of interesting highlights about the book. Later editions included a postscript describing an unnamed investment that was bonanza for Ben. Ben made the purchase in 1948 when he was writing the first edition, and Brace Yourself. The mystery company was Geico. If Ben had not recognized the special qualities of Geico when it was still in infancy, my future in Berkshire would have been far different. The 1949 edition of the book also recommended a railroad stock that was selling for $17 and earning about $10 per share. One of the reasons I admired Ben was that he had the guts to use current example, leaving himself open to sneers. If he sampled in part that low valuation resulted from an account rule of the time that accrued railroad to exclude from its reported earnings the potential retained earnings of affiliates. The recommended stock was Northern Pacific, and its most important affiliate was Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. These railroads are now important parts of BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which is today fully owned by Berkshire. When I read the book, Northern Pacific had a market value of about $40 million. Now, a successor, having added a great many properties to be sure, earns that amount every 4 days. I can't remember what I paid for that first copy of The Intelligent Investor. Whatever the cost, it would record the word truth of Ben's adage: price is what you pay, knowledge is what you get. Of all the investment I ever made, but buying Ben's book was the best, except for my purchase of 2 marriage licenses. Local and state financial problems are accelerating in large part because public entities promised pensions they couldn't afford. Citizens and public officials typically underappreciate the gigantic financial tapeworm that was born when promises were made that conflicted with the willingness to fund them. Unfortunately, pension mathematics today remains a mystery to most Americans. Investment policies as well played an important role in these problems. In 1975, I wrote a memo to Catherine Graham, then chairman of the Washington Post Company, about what pitfalls pension promises and the importance of investment policy. The memos are produced in pages 118 and 136. During the next decade, you will read a lot of bad news about public pension plans. I hope my memo is helpful to you. Understand the necessity for prompt remedial action where the problem exists. The annual meeting will be held on Saturday, May 3rd at the Central Link Center. Carrie Sova, our talent ringmaster, will be in charge, and all of our headquarters group will pitch it to help her. Our gang both does a better job than professional event planners would, and yes, save us money. Central Link doors will be open at 7 a.m. and 7:30 we will have our third international newspaper tossing challenge. Our target will be Clayton home porch, precisely 35 feet from the throwing line. I tossed about 500,000 papers when I was a teenager, so I think I'm pretty good. Challenge me. I'll buy a dilly bar for anyone who lands this or short stroke closer to the doorstep than I do. The paper will be 36 to 42 pages. You must fold them yourself. No rubber hands allowed. At 8:30, a new Berkshire movie will be shown. An hour later, we will start the new question and answer period, which was a break for lunch at Century Link stands. We'll last until 3:30 after a short recess. Charlie and I will convene the annual meeting at 3:45. If you decide to leave during today's question periods, please do so while Charlie's talking. The best reason to exit of the course is to shop. We'll assist you by filling the 104,300 square foot hall that adjoins the meeting area with products from dozens of Berkshire subsidiaries. Last year, you did your part, and most locations racked up record sales. In a 9-hour period, we sold 1,062 pairs of Justin boots. That's a pair of every 32 seconds, with 12,792 pounds of See's candy and 11,162 Quicken knives, 21 knives from minute, and 6,344 pairs of Waltz Lemon gloves. Always a hot item. This year, Charlie and I will have competing ketchup bottles for sale. Actually, the ones with Charlie's picture will be heavily discounted, but if you help my bottle, we'll sell this. It's important, so don't let me down. Brooks, our running shoe company, will again have a special commemorative shoe to offer at their meeting. After you purchase a pair, wearing them the next day at our second annual Berkshire 5K at 8 a.m. race starting at the Central Link. Full details for the participation will be included in the visitor's guide that you will receive with your tickets for the meeting. Entrants will find themselves running alongside many of Berkshire's managers, directors, and associates. Geico will have a booth in the shopping area staffed by the number of its top counselors from around the country. Stop by for a quote. In most cases, Geico will be able to give you a shareholder discount, usually 8%. This special offer is permitted by 44 of the 51 jurisdiction in which we operate. One supplemental point, the discount is not additive if you qualify for another, such as that given certain groups. Bring the deals with existing insurance and check out whether we can save you money. For at least half of you believe we can. Be sure to visit the Bookworm. It will carry about 35 books and DVDs, among them a couple of new titles. One is Max Olson's compilation of Berkshire letters going back to 1965. The book includes an index that I find particularly useful, specifying page numbers for individuals, companies, and subject matters. I recommend 40 Chances by my son Howard. You'll enjoy it. If you are a big spender or aspire to become one, visit Signature Flight Support on the east side of the Omaha Airport between noon and 5 p.m. on Saturday. There will be a fully NetJets aircraft sure to set your pulse racing. Come by bus, leave by private jet. Live a little. An attachment to the proxy material that is closed with this report explains how you can obtain the credential you will need for admission to the meeting and other events. Airlines have sometimes jacked up prices for the Berkshire weekend if you're coming from far away. Compare the cost of flying to Kansas City versus Omaha. To drive between the two cities about 2.5 hours. And maybe Kansas City can save you money, particularly if you had planned to rent a car in Omaha. Spend the savings with us. At Nebraska Berkshire Mart, located on Safe and Savior Acre Street on 72nd Street between Dodge and Pacific, we will again be having Berkshire weekend discount pricing. Last year in the weekend surrounding the meeting and the store did $48.2 million of business, breaking its previous record by 12%. It's also a set single-day record for $8.2 million in Saturday, selling nearly $1 million of mattresses alone. To obtain the Berkshire discount on NFM, you must make your purchase between Tuesday, April 29th and Monday, May 5th. Inclusive and also present your meeting credentials. The period's special pricing will even apply to the products of several prestigious manufacturers that normally have ironclad rules against discounting, but which in the spirit of our shareholder weekend, we have made an exception for you. We appreciate their cooperation. NFM is open from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday and Saturdays this year from 5:30 to 8 p.m. NFM is having a picnic to which you are invited. At Borsam's, we'll again have two shareholders-only events. The first will be a cocktail reception from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Friday, May 2nd. The second, the main galley, will be held on Sunday, May 4th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Saturday, we will be open until 6 p.m. in recent years. Our 3-day volume has far exceeded sales in all of November. December, normally Jewelers' best month, about 1 to 15 p.m. on Sunday. I'll be begin clerking at Borsam's to ask for my crazy warrant quote on the item of your choice. As I get older, my pricing gets even more ridiculous. Come take advantage of me. We will have huge crowds at Borsam's throughout the weekend for your convenience. Therefore, shareholders' price will be able from Monday, April 28th through Saturday, May 10th. During that period, please identify yourself as a shareholder by presenting your meeting credential or broker's statement that shows you're a Berkshire shareholder. On Sunday in the mall outside of Berkshire's blindfolded Patrick Wolf, twice U.S. chess champion, will take on all comers who will have their eyes wide open in groups of 6. Nearby, Norman Beck, in a remarkable position from Dallas, will bewilder onlookers. Additionally, we will have Bob Hammond and Jordan Osberg, two of the world's top bridge experts, available to play bridge with their shareholders. On Sunday afternoon, don't play them for money. My friend Errol Singh will be in the mall as well on Sunday, taking on challengers at the table tennis. Last year, she made Americans, especially me, proud with her performance at the Olympics. I met Errol when she was 9, and even then, I was unable to score a point against her. Now she's a French Princeton in the U.S. Women's Champion. If you don't mind embarrassing yourself, test your skills against her. Beginning at 1 p.m., Bill Gates, and I will lead her off and try to soften her up. Gourds and Piccolos will be open exclusive for Berkshire shareholders on Sunday, May 4th. Both will be serving until 10 p.m. with Gourds opening at 1 p.m. At Piccolos opening at 4 p.m. These restaurants are my favorites, and I will eat with both of them on Sunday evening. Remember to make reservations at Gourds. Call 402-551-3733 on April 1st, but not before. And for Piccolos, call 402-342-9038. At Piccolos, order giant root beer for float dessert. Audible CSCs get the small one. We will again have the same free financial journals lead the question and answer period at the meeting, asking Charlie and I me questions that shareholders have submitted to them by the email. The journals and their email addresses are Carol Loomis of Fortune, who may be emailed at cloomis@fortunemail.com, Becky Quick of CNBC at BerkshireQuestions at cnbc.com, Andrew Sorkin of the New York Times at Sorkin at NYTimes.com. From the questions submitted, each journalist will choose the 6 resheet decides are most interesting and important. The journalists have told me that your question is the best chance of you being selected. If you keep it concise, avoid sending at the last moment, make it Berkshire and include no more than 2 questions in any email you send them. In your email, let the journalists know that you would like their name to mention if your question is selected. We will have also a panel of 3 analysts who follow Berkshire this year. Insurance specialist will be Jay Gelb of Berkeley. Questions that deal with non-insurance operations will come from Jonathan Brandt of Rian, Cunniff and Goldfarb, and we will again have a credentialed beer on Berkshire. We would like to hear from applicants for a short Berkshire. Please include evidence of your position. The 3 analysts will bring their own Berkshire-specific questions and alternate with the journalists and then audience asking them. Charlie and I believe that all shareholders should have access to Berkshire information simultaneously and should also have adequate time to analyze it. That's why we try to issue financial information late on Fridays and early Saturdays, and with our annual meeting is held on Saturdays. We do not talk on one-on-one large institutional investors or analysts, but rather treat all shareholders the same. Our hope is that the journalists and analysts will ask questions to further educate our owners about their investment. Neither Charlie nor will I will get so much a clue about the questions to be asked. We know the journalists and analysts will come up with some tough ones, and that's the way we like it. Also, we expect at least 54 questions, which will allow for 6 from each analyst and journalist and 18 from audience. If there is some extra time, we'll take more from audience. Questioners will be determined by drawings that will take place at 8:15 a.m. at each of the 15 microphones located in the arena main overflow room. For good reason and regularity extolled the accomplishments of our operating managers. They are truly all-stars who run their business as if they were only asset owned by their families. I believe the mindset of managers to be a shareholder-oriented as it can be found in the universe of large publicly owned companies. Most have no financial need to work. The joy of hitting the business home runs means as much as them it's a paycheck. Equally important, however, are the 24 men and women who work with me in the corporate office. This group efficiently deals with a multitude of SEC and regulatory requirements, files a 23,000-page federal income tax return as well as state foreign returns, respond to countless shareholders and media inquiries, get to the annual report, prepares for the country's largest annual meeting, coordinates the board's activities, and the list goes on and on. They handle all of these business tasks cheerfully and with unbelievable efficiency, making my life easy and pleasant. Their efforts go beyond activities strictly related to Berkshire. Last year, they dealt with 40 universities selected from 200 applicants who sent students to Omaha for a Q&A day with me. They also handle all kinds of requests that I receive, arrange my travel, and even get me hamburgers and french fries, smothered in ketchup, of course. For lunch, no CEO has it better. I truly do feel like tap dancing work every day. In closing, I think it's becoming appropriate to ignore our no pictures policy and let you view our remarkable home office crew below as a photo from our Christmas lunch. 2 people can make it, otherwise you're looking at all those who staff Berkshire headquarters. They are truly miracle workers. Next year, I will review our 50 years at Berkshire and speculate a bit about the next 50 years. In the meantime, come to Omaha on May 3rd. Enjoy your Woodstock for Capitalists, February 28, 2014. Warren Buffett, Chairman of the Board.